Hey everybody, this is Robert and thank you for tuning in to the Solomon Shrine podcast. And today we have the lead character, we have the main man, William Barranto, or should I say, Sean Chiplock.
Hello, thank you for having me. And I maybe I'm wondering if I should say this, but I didn't realize it was the lead role. Like when I audition for these things, I usually hop around a lot and look at all the different sides. I'm like, oh, I like this character. Oh, this one speaks to me. Oh, now I have an idea for this one. So I often don't realize the character's like actual importance in the story until like after the fact, when I'm coming in to record. So that's funny. I mean, I'm excited and I hope I can bring the right amount of energy and enthusiasm that the character needs.
Yeah, anytime, man. And yeah, it kind of often happens where it's like we don't really know what significance the character is until
Right.
after the fact. So it's like, oh my God, wow,
And
okay.
there's lots of projects where it's like, okay, maybe this character is billed as like the protagonist or the main character, but it turns out the story is actually about this other character. You know what I mean? Where the protagonist kind of serves as an exposition catalyst for the real character who we're learning about.
Yeah, for sure. Before we continue, is my audio coming in loud and
Sounds
clear?
pretty good to me, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. But yeah, I just wanted to congratulate you once again for booking William, and I am just so eager to work with the rest of the cast. And
Right.
yeah, because I know when we made the announcements and everything, it was like, oh yeah, so we'll just start with the characters and then
You did your
the
diligence. I appreciate that you had the whole list up there. And yes, I am appreciative that you brought up the rest of the cast because, no project is successful in a vacuum with only one person, and I'm very eager to hear how everyone sounds playing off of each other.
yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So when it comes to the recording sessions, we'll definitely, have some fun and spice it up a bit
For
and
sure.
see if it's gonna be group ensemble. Yeah,
I
so
was
we'll
gonna say, are
definitely.
you hoping to go for like group ensemble recordings, or are you gonna aim for like individual? But it sounds like you answered that for me already.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it just kind of has to depend because, yeah, scheduling and everything can be pretty crazy, especially during the summertime.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I kind of wanted to start this out with, yeah, just share with the audience out there, like, just everything that you're just kind of been up to this year, because I know you've been doing a lot of streaming,
Oh,
still doing voiceover stuff. So, yeah,
right,
just
right.
share it.
Well, I'll be honest with you. Like trying to pinpoint exactly what I've been up to this year is going to be so difficult because I think the best way to describe it is uh, that I continue to have this level of gratitude for how busy I am. As I'm sure you're aware, and maybe we'll end up touching on this later. We recently had the SAG after video game strike that had been going on, and I'm trying to think of how to carefully word this because I observed how much it impacted so much of my corner of the industry and how much it impacted my colleagues. And I am grateful that one, we were able to find a solution that let us put the strike on hold. And I'm confident that it's about to be like officially over. I know we haven't officially ratified the contract yet, but suffice to say, we are at a point where in the entire history of the union, we've never not ratified a contract after this point. So I'm very confident that we're in the final steps. But also, in looking over the contract, I am glad that we were able to secure additional protections that were not present even as recently as the last best final offer that was brought up. I'm so grateful that the voice actor collective and especially the union board continued to meet, continued to negotiate, and were able to get additional things. That being said, um, even during a time when a lot of projects were off the table, and even despite making the choice not to audition for projects that were marked as, proceed with caution because we wouldn't have those protections that we were going for if we applied for them. Um, my agency worked so diligently to find me opportunities that were greenlit, projects that had already signed the IMA or projects that, already met the standards that we were asking for. So they were okay to audition for even during the strike. And between those jobs and ones that obviously weren't part of the strike to begin with, whether it was the odd commercial gig or I'm trying to think of most of what I do is anime and video games. So the odd commercial gig or anime dubs or video games that were okay to work during the strike. I did not find myself wanting for more work. It was a careful balance, even between that and freelance and convention travel and other social obligations that I was doing. So when you ask the question of like, what have you been up to this year? I think the best way that I can answer it is enough that I need to remember to make time for myself. As I'm sure you're aware, I have my own stream channel, and even as recently as last year, I was streaming pretty regularly, I would say. I would end up taking a lot of breaks when I was traveling to cons, but cons were really the one big interruption when it came to my stream schedule. Nowadays, I had to like make a from the heart post for my streaming community because now it's between the convention travel and then I'll come back and like literally, Robert, let me find an example. 1 week ago on June 10th, I had 4 different voiceover sessions across the same 24 hours. I have had days where I had a session and then like a workshop or like 2 sessions and then an evening event that I was going to. But this is the first time in my memory that I had 4 separate sessions, all directly involving voiceover that I had to do. And you come back from something like that, and I don't want to stream, because I'm worn out. Maybe I have another job tomorrow. Maybe I have auditions that I need to be in good vocal health for. So I feel like I'm giving a very long-winded answer to this, but suffice to say, I am grateful that hopefully my colleagues will be able to get back to that same level of work soon if they're not already. And I myself need to make sure that I establish boundaries for myself because it feels like I'm very quickly approaching a point where I'm glad I'm getting all the work done, but there is no time for me left afterwards.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat because, well, you probably already saw where I pretty much was in charge of casting and helping out
Oh,
with the
yeah.
Caleb. Yeah, so it's so my April, May, I mean, since April, it's just pretty much just been nonstop insanity with just going over the submissions and then doing the callbacks and just finalizing all the submissions for that. And then
Yep.
we settled on the cast. And then I decided that, okay, so if I wanted to talk to everybody just in one place instead of just reaching out to certain people just
Right, right,
individually because that's even more time.
right.
I just decided to just make like a small little server just for everybody to just so we could just be on one accord, just plan and manage everything. And on top of that, there's still the fact that well, I still got like you were talking about auditions and then
Yep.
some other IRL stuff that I've
Only
been
only once have I been in the director's chair myself. Like it was
yeah.
for some like hospital ethics training program, but just from that experience, as you were mentioning, just from organizing all the auditions, listening to them, deciding who to cast, getting the lines from them, and I'm sure, are you also doing the audio editing yourself?
No.
Okay, okay. Well, then let's imagine together because I've gone through it, taking all of those individual files once people send them in and lining them up so that it sounds like a cohesive. It's a lot of work, and with the cast list that you had posted, I can only imagine. Because for me, it was like I think 3, 4 people total, and your cast list was something like what, 10, 12, 15, something like that.
Thinking about because we have the four, and there's still other characters that we got to cast for.
Right.
Like, there's still like characters that are going to be throughout the series, as it often does. So we have the main four, as it is right now. It's the the more four main characters, and then you have the supporting, which is around like four more, so that
Hmm.
equals eight, and then additional voices. We've announced. Another four in the video,
Oh
so
my
we're
gosh.
kind of looking at around 12.
How are you
Possibly
planning
more.
on tackling this? Like, how are you planning on? Because obviously, I imagine we wouldn't have like an ensemble recording where literally everyone is
Yeah,
sitting
no,
in on the same call.
no, yeah.
So how do you plan on blocking this out to kind of like keep yourself sane first of all, but also to start tackling each section of the project?
Yeah, so basically how it's gonna work out, it's since the video well, the first order of business was having everybody sign the AI thing, for Nava, and then
Hmm. Hmm.
make the video, release it, and just try to figure out just with the recording sessions, because I know for episode one, I definitely know that we're gonna have to start casting for some other like I will say there's like maybe two, three other characters that are gonna be that are gonna be super important. Actually, no, four. So
Okay.
once again, so once we figure out the yeah, because what I was thinking is maybe doing a casting for that, maybe sometime in the next month or August or so. But
Okay.
I just wanted to go ahead and get with William, Marshall, Haley, Adrian.
Sure,
I just wanted to
sure.
get those done. That way, when it's time for the rest of the cast, like I
Right.
know they're not gonna have much of a major significant like importance to the story until like maybe sometime around towards the end of the first season and all
Uh-huh.
throughout if we do a season two. So maybe somewhere around halfway through
Okay.
the series. So that's how it's gonna go.
All
But
right.
I just wanted the reason why is that I really wanted to prioritize just the main characters so that way we could just focus on the rest as we go
Mm-hmm.
along. Because if I do the episode one casting call with all of them, then yeah, that's just insanity to me. So I figured, you know what, since these are kind of like the main stars, I'm like,
Sure,
you know what,
sure.
let's just focus on them and make sure that they um because it's like when you're doing a project like this, especially when it's something that you created, it's like
Right.
you just want to take care of your kid, the children, because they're kind of typically like family. Because when you work with different projects and a lot of different creators that are kind of the
Uh-huh.
same, it's like, yeah, they really want to treat it with the care and respect that they need. And that's pretty much is the case with me for Solomon. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at right now. So the main
Okay.
four, it's pretty much where we're at, and then we'll just focus on the rest as we kind of proceed in the summertime because the series does take place during the summer
Sure, sure.
and lasts throughout the thing. So yeah, so that's pretty much my plan for this. But thanks for asking though. Really appreciate it.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, but regardless, I think we got a few questions that I have for you today. Um,
Okay.
Alrighty, let me pull them up really quickly
Sure thing.
because it's always not. Okay, here we go. So, I guess so far, because you've already done so much with convention and everything that you just listed. So,
Sure, sure.
out of all the stuff that you've worked on this year, and it could just be any bit of business, like
Okay.
achievements, accomplishments that you've done so far, what would you say were the most exciting as well as the most creatively challenging or even fulfilling in a way?
Exciting versus creatively challenging versus fulfilling. Um, I'm trying to remember. I need to check when this game released. Hold on, because I want to try and
Yeah,
keep it
that's
to
always a
this
good
year.
idea.
When you say this year, do you mean 2025 so far? Do you mean the last year, so like May 2024 to May 2025? What's your scope that
I
you go for?
mean, well, it could just be literally just the beginning of this year, but we could just say as of recent, like
Sure.
2024, so on and so forth.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. Well, if I want to think about something that I would find creatively fulfilling or challenging that I can talk about, because the problem is, especially with because everything happens on a delay, most of the stuff that's coming out in 2025 has been recorded, at the end of last year. It's still in development. Like I'm looking at my own BTVA for like, what have I been in that's come out in 2025? And
Yeah,
it's not a
behind
whole
the
lot of
voice
stuff.
actors.
But like even if we just go as far back as like October of last year, there was my role as Bocon in Romancing Saga 2 Revenge of the Seven,
Yes.
and that was a role that I was extremely proud of. So, I do think I have an easier answer because I don't think it's been put up yet. But um the one that I'm really proud of that has come out this year is Duck Detective: The Ghost of Glamping. Um, Duck Detective is kind of that indie sleeper hit that caught a lot of people off guard, and I've really enjoyed seeing the number of articles that were like, the voice acting was one of the highlights, and I'm especially impressed with how Sean Chiplock delivers this comedic noir style detective voice. And my favorite story to tell about that is that it is one of the few times that I abuse the morning grunge voice that most of us get when we first wake up in order to achieve the character voice for Duck Detective. uh, but if I had to speak in terms of like fulfilling, it actually isn't tied to any specific role at all because there are a number of projects that have come out this year that were all directed by the same person. And it wasn't so much the project itself or the characters that I played in the project, but it was a conversation that I ended up happening with that director after one of those recording sessions because I had talked to them about just having the chance to work with them more often and how appreciative I was that I was staying busy despite the strike and stuff like that. And it was for anime dub, so it wasn't for anything that would have been struck. Um, and they, apropos of nothing, they brought up to me and said, I always enjoy having you in here. In fact, I was talking to a different director the other day, and you happened to come up in the conversation. And she proceeds to tell me that the director said, "Oh my gosh, yes. Whenever I see that Sean Chiplock is on the schedule, I know that we're gonna have a really fun or a really easy day." And like, what better compliment is there for a director who probably works with dozens of people a day, hundreds of people a week or month, to recognize a specific name and to immediately have such a positive feeling relating to it, going, man, this talent, what a cool, fun person to work with, and they make my job so easy. That really, I feel, should be the dream of anyone who gets into voiceovers, to be so liked and desired so as to be in demand like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just really great to just have somebody just willing to bat for you. Like when they say, "Oh, Sean Chiplock, I know we're gonna have a fun session." You already know that you're gonna be in for a really good time. And I just really think it's so sweet that, the longer that you're in the business, which kind of is the perfect segue to my next question here.
Right.
It's just like, yeah, but I just wanted to ask you, what is something that you cherish so deeply after so many years of being in the voiceover business?
So when people ask me how I got into voiceover in the first place, I bring up the fact that I was not a lazy student in school. I focused on a lot, and I promise this is getting to the central answer. Um, I wasn't slacking off and not doing my assignments, but I definitely was not invested in them, and it often felt like I couldn't find a subject that I was interested in. There are jobs that I've had that I liked the idea of the job. I was enjoying the concept of the job, whether it was organizing books or even playtesting games at some point. But I found that when it was the same exact task over and over for 4 to 6 to 8 hours per shift, that my ADHD would make me bored of it. Like it was so frustrating because it was a job that I enjoyed doing, but the task was so repetitive that I would fall asleep doing it because it wasn't stimulating me enough. Um, and so what I appreciate, what I cherish so much about voiceover is not only is it something that I am passionate about, but it's also something that is never quite the exact same thing twice. I've played a lot of character archetypes that are similar, whether that's the youthful protagonist or the optimistic sidekick or the aggressive rival or something like that. Um, but they always have something that sets them apart, whether it's their motivations or their attitude or the way that they try to achieve their goals or how they react to their goals being thwarted or achieved or whatever happens over the course of the story. And because I never can fully anticipate what's going to happen during a session, it always gives me, it changes it up just enough. It always stimulates my brain in a slightly different way. And I don't get bored of it because of that. And I hope it stays that way for a long time. So that is definitely what I would say I cherish the most, is that even after doing this career for 18 years in total and just over 10, 12 years professionally, that I still find things about these roles, about these projects, about auditions even, that excite me, where it's like, okay, here's what I recognize that reminds me of stuff I've done before, but here's what makes it different, and I get to explore that and have fun with it.
Yeah, but it kind of also brings up an interesting topic that I'm not sure it's really brought up a ton in my interviews, but
Hmm.
how would you say that our love of pop culture greatly influences how we approach acting and other avenues of the industry?
Do you mean how we as professionals approach stuff like voiceover and directing, or do you mean how the fan base and audiences approach voice acting as something that they admire and look up to?
Both.
Okay. um, well, on the personal side, or I would say on the professional side, I imagine it's no secret that, enough time has passed that a lot of people working in the localization and the dubbing industry in anime marketing and production in the first place are probably folks who grew up on the medium and were inspired by it. Anime, just as a sole example, is definitely no longer the niche market that it used to be. As back in the 90s and maybe the early 2000s when I was first growing up. So I like that there is so much innate, organic, authentic passion coming into these industries because folks who are passionate about what they're doing are going to put more effort into it. Like just as like a core foundation. If you care about something so much, you almost are not going to allow yourself to settle for anything less than what it has potential for. And that can cause stress, that can cause crunch time, that can cause, its own set of problems. But the fact is, at the end of the day, these passionate people are going to do whatever they can to make the best product possible. From an audience perspective, that's a little bit more interesting because I would say that yes, the love of pop culture has led to growth of mediums like anime, of manga consumption, of cosplay, and a lot of those related topics in general. But even from the halfway point, like not quite just fan audiences, but also when we look at the Hollywood culture and celeb culture, I observe that there is a lot of bleed through and overlap on that, where as voice actors, not just their roles, as voice actors are becoming more recognized because of the growth of interest in voice acting as a part of the dubbing culture or the anime culture. There also seems to be this growth of voice actors as celebrities or voice actors as content creators. And that is a double-edged sword because on the one hand, it is nice to be recognized for yourself as the individual and not just the character that you play. It's nice to have folks come up to your table and go, I really love how you portrayed this character. I love what you brought to the role, instead of just saying, oh, I love Subaru or I love Naruto or I love, Inuyasha. But it also has led to this sort of celebrity marketing expectation of voice actors, where we can't just be actors. We also have to be entertainers. We also have to know how to market ourselves to fans and to events. We have to know how to sell merchandise because conventions put value on how much we can raise or how many tickets that we can sell. And for a lot of people, including myself, especially if we're introverted by nature, that can be really scary because it's like, well, no, I just want to do my job. I don't want to also have to put in time into content creation and I call it doing the monkey dance, like dancing in front of camera in order to put smiles on people's faces. I thrive in the booth. I thrive at doing my job. But as a human being, when I'm done with my work, I want to go back and do my own thing. I want to stream the games that I enjoy. I want to spend time with my cats. I don't want to constantly be entrenched in voiceover and anime culture. And I feel like sometimes it's a battle between how successful do I want my career to be versus how much of my own time do I want to have control over. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it very much does, especially when you do the conventions, like you were saying, and there's also the risk of having people place you on a pedestal. And you talked about the celebrity thing, where they expect they kind of expect a lot of actors to be like, oh, they're just dressed in royalty or they live in
Right,
Manchester,
right,
any of that stuff. So it's like,
right.
buddy, like, look, if you're looking at where we're at right now in the economy, that is not really the case and
Sure.
especially like we just had the strike and
Right.
all that jazz. So that's doesn't really necessarily apply to
It feels
all
like
of
an
us.
awful lot of stuff has been happening in the first 6 months of this year simultaneously, and it's been very hard to keep track of at times. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't know what time is anymore, so I'll ask a question pertaining to the strike in a little bit.
Okay.
But yeah, in case if you haven't noticed, I am kind of technically cosplaying as William because we've been doing a series of
Oh
interviews.
yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just something fun that we decided to do. Well, my pitch, where I'm just like, you know what? If we wanted to talk about the project, I might as well just dress up for the part, So that's kind of what I've been doing for the past month or so. And
Sure.
yeah, if you're asking me how I'm doing this in the heat, I don't know neither. So
Where are you based again? Remind me.
I am in the, let me see. I'm not too far from Disneyland, like not, so probably around
Okay.
like the Buena Park,
Yeah,
Anaheim.
but
So
do you have AC at your place?
I do, it's turned off right now, but trust me, I'm gonna turn
Oh,
that on
yeah, for
after
sure. No,
this is done, man.
I try to keep the house running at a steady 72, but some days I forget to check for a while and it's gone as high as like 78, 80, and I'm like, "Oh no.
Oh no,
Got to
yeah,
take care of
no,
that."
because like around this time, even if it goes up to like 78 or 79, it still
Sure,
feels like
sure.
you're in a sauna.
Of course.
Yeah, which is gonna be fun when we do the recording sessions because I will say right now, episode one is kind of like, for a lot of episodes where they just kind of start off kind of because we want to establish the characters and just
Yeah,
really,
yeah, pretty standard. You got to give the audience a foundation of knowledge
yeah.
for them to go off of.
So
So,
I won't say the vocally stressful stuff happens until like maybe two or three. So luckily, episode one, it's just kind of talking. So
okay.
that's pretty one, two done. So
Right.
that's just want to get that out of the way right now. But yeah, in the case of Solomon, I know I've said this a few times, but I might as well just share like how it came to be if you're interested.
Sure, go ahead. This is your podcast.
Yeah, of course. So, TLDR, I was on a camping trip with my church youth group back in the, I want to say 16, one of the 2 years, but it was definitely like around a decade or so ago. And
Okay.
there were, and I kid you not, I don't know if you've ever been to like Idlewild, because I think
I
that's where
have
they
been to
do.
Idlewild. Yes, actually. Voiceover camp
Yeah,
had
I was about to say, yeah,
There
yeah,
you
yeah.
go.
Yeah, I was just about to say that. Yeah.
Okay.
I always wanted to go to one of those, but yeah, it's just always the man, my schedule just be so whack, bro. But one of
That's
these
like I
days out.
said, I'm dealing with my own scheduling issues on a consistent basis now.
Yeah, so I guess we'll probably ask like how those VO count the stuff, how that went in a little bit after I share.
I thought they were great because, like, especially post COVID,
Oh yeah.
even though Zoom workshops or even the workshops have come back, most of them have been held not in person but virtually over stuff like Zoom, which is great in the sense that it gives greater accessibility to actors who may not have the ability to go in studio or go to somewhere in Los Angeles, especially if they don't live, in the state to begin with. But it also kind of removed a little bit of that human element where it's like, oh, there's just something you get different from being in person, from watching other people perform, from seeing their whole body, from sharing in that energy. It's hard to describe without it being very like philosophical, but when you are in the room without the distractions of being in your own home, there is a different energy of we are all committing to this space for the same reason. And it doesn't quite exist the same when you're all on Zoom, where it's like, okay, yes, we're all here for the same reason, but all we needed to do to take part was click on a Zoom link and log in. Um, so Idlewild was really fun. I don't know if they're doing the event anymore. I haven't heard anything about it, but when it was happening, it was this really nice, like kind of adult event camp out. Ah, I see. Maybe we'll have to boot that up for another one. It's okay. That's technology, baby. But it's okay. I can go faster. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I hope I get the chance to do it again. I've made some really cool friendships from those events.
Yeah, because I was just mentioning that because I know that you went there, so I'm not entirely sure if they're doing it again, but I haven't
Right.
really checked it with Chrysia or anybody on staff, so we'll just have
Hmm.
to see. Keep us posted, I
For
guess, all
sure, for
y'all.
sure.
So yeah. Anyway, so Idlewild was where I went with my group, and I kid you not, there are these really old buildings that were just there. Nobody has went there in years, so we
Okay.
were all curious about it. I kind
Okay.
of ventured off and went and checked out what it was, but I didn't go too far because I don't want to be too far from where the camp was. So
Sure,
thankfully
sure.
nothing happened, and I was a kid, so I was like, "Ooh, what's this?" I'm just like, "Ooh, sprinkle, like, ooh, sparkles." I'm that type of baby.
Yeah, the kind of piece of candy. Ooh, piece of candy. Ooh, piece
Yeah,
of
piece
candy.
of
Just
candy. What's in
there you
here?
go.
So luckily nothing happened. So then I started thinking to myself, that was interesting. And then 2020 hit, and I'm just like, I for some reason was thinking back about, that one trip, and I'm just like, maybe I could write something out of this. Like,
Okay.
okay, so for the teaser, we had these two sisters that were out, and one of them is a streamer, and they end up try to check it out, and then something happens to them. And what happens? Well, that's what kicks off the episodes. Like that, I just wanted to do that little teaser as a way of like, okay, this is something that really gets the series off the ground, and this is something that
Okay.
happened before the four of them went there.
Hmm.
And yeah, so this just as a way, as like a little teaser hook on what's going to be, what to expect from the series.
Interesting. So
So
there's a little bit of like real life inspiration going into this.
I mean, yeah, a lot of the stuff that we do is kind of sort of based on real life, but
Uh-huh.
I just decided, add a little bit of like Scooby Doo or Gravity Falls, Courage.
Sure.
Like, just add a little bit of elements in there, just make it a little more, I guess, scary per se.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, like basically just take the stuff that I grew up with, add my own experiences, and just put it together.
Heck yeah.
Since right at the height of COVID, which yeah, that was also a fun time. So
Right.
yeah, but at the end of the day, though, it's like with stories like this, like with my example, it's like it's not all like there is a silver lining in everything, as a lot of people were just getting their start around that time and making stories. And I think if it wasn't for the pandemic, I don't think Among Us would have really been exploded the way it did, or
I
Animal
mean,
Crossing, or any of
yeah,
these other
yeah.
games,
It's
and
it's
also
hard to talk
Genshin.
about the things that boosted as a result of the pandemic because obviously the better alternative is that the pandemic had never happened in the first place. But it is interesting to see how that kind of forced stay-at-home period of time led to certain industries really booming, or especially led to a lot of people discovering interests that they might not have had the time to discover otherwise.
Yeah. And I know with the case of that's also definitely the case with Genshin Impact, because if I'm not mistaken, I think that also started in 2020, but then it just kind of and
I
also
I
Cookie.
think you're
Yeah.
right. I for some reason I keep hearing people saying that like the localization began around the same time as Breath of the Wild, which was 2017, but
Hmm.
I have not paid attention to it, so I wouldn't know for sure.
Yeah, but definitely know for a fact that Genshin just kind of really just took off around.
Right.
Yeah, especially in the last few years.
I mean,
So,
you've seen how beautiful the art is for like outdoor areas,
oh
and
my God,
for a game that
yeah.
people were playing to like pretend they were going outdoors during COVID. You can't get much better than that, you know?
I think you know what? Now that you mention it, I think that's also why Animal Crossing just kind of also
Oh, I
had
know.
picked up around
I
that time.
yes. Oh my God. What was it? I think Animal Crossing released 2 days before the lockdown started in California.
Yes. Oh
And
my, yeah.
there was a point, Robert, where from when I woke up to when I went back to sleep playing it, I spent 18 hours playing Animal
Oh
Crossing
no.
on the same file. I was just doing my stuff, you know? So,
Yeah. I think you know what? Now that you've just brought it up, it's not something that was a pandemic thing, but I just started playing it recently, and you're
sure.
also streaming it on your Twitch channel. But Ace Attorney,
Yes.
I just started playing I guess the original trilogy that came out on the Switch, and I think the first couple of days I just got hooked on it for like almost 24 hours. Like literally from sun up to sundown, I was just going through case by case. But
Ace
yeah,
Attorney has been a really fun way for me to kind of bridge the gap between my profession and my fan base, my audience base, my supporters. And I only ever stream Ace Attorney when I'm doing like a full game live dub of it.
yeah,
But
oh
it's been a
yeah,
fun way for me to include people and be like, hey, step into my shoes. Let's do something fun together. You know, no judgment. Just bring your own. And there are performances of characters that I've seen folks in my community go. I can only hear that character with that voice now, thanks to you. And I mean, they
yeah.
weren't saying it to me; they were saying it to one of my community members who was dubbing a character. So,
Yeah, that is just so awesome how the live dub is like, yeah, you brought a lot of it's a great way to bring the community together, but with some of the
absolutely,
performances, it's like, dude, this kind of would be what I would hear like from say Dig Gumshoe or just
right,
Edgeworth or
right.
just something you hear in
It
canon.
really, it really elevates it to a brand new experience.
Yeah, it really does. So I guess going back to Solomon just real quick,
Okay,
because I usually ask this to those that are in the cast, but what was something
okay.
that you kind of I mean, when you've got the auditions for William and the callback and everything, what was something that you really that stood out to you the most about,
I like when
and what you
there's,
saw?
for me, maybe this is a little bit more simplistic, but I like when there's distinct character archetypes that you can recognize within the sides, and there's two reasons for that. One is because when you have characters, I mean, every character can have nuance, but when you can tell right away, like based on their silhouette or like their lines, like the kind of personality or attitude that they might have, we all have favorites, whether we like someone who's rough and tumble or if we like someone who's very educated, even if they're like book shy or something like that. And it's fun to see to see all these characters show up and go, oh, how are their interactions going to affect each other throughout the series? From a performer side, one of my strengths that I often tout is that I have been told I'm very good at covering a wide variety of different, role types. And for me, when I see a bunch of different archetypes, or especially in auditions, because there have been auditions I've done where the client is like, we need you to audition for these three roles. Like you have to audition for them as a set, not just an individual, because we need people who can play multiple roles. And for me, I view it as an opportunity, as a challenge almost to go, can I read for, more than just one or two characters, but give them distinct personalities to where the person listening could go, obviously, I'm not going to cast Sean as every single role because that would be unfair to people. But I want them to have this problem of going, ooh, who do I cast him as? Because there's multiple roles that I feel like he could be a good fit for. That's a problem I want all of my clients to have.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, I think I may just have to cap this off as part one. But if you're enjoying this so far, trust me, I have some funny stories to share in the next part. So stick around if you want to hear some crazy stories from the casting director side. But yeah, I'll see you on in a little bit and have fun. Bye. Alrighty, welcome back. Let me adjust this real quick. But yeah, the when you were talking in the last part about, oh, I don't know. So here's what happened. So when we were doing the casting of everybody,
Okay.
so this what I like to do is because when you were saying we can't just give every part to Sean Chiplock because that would be unfair.
I would
But
certainly, yes, yes. I hope that's never the case where they're like, we're going to just give them all to one person. But go ahead.
yeah, no, I'm just like, because I wanted everybody, because you touched upon something that was super important when I was when Michaela and I just want to shout out to Michaela Laws for helping out with
Sure,
this.
sure.
Awesome. So we kind of were discussing about, having specific character dynamics, specific not just with the vocal quality, but also their relationships, dynamic,
Okay.
and just making each of them feel alive and different in their own right. Like
Right.
Marshall is not going to be different. He's not going to be the same as William, and William's not going to be the same with Haley or Adrienne or any of the other
Sure.
characters that we're going to see in the project. So when you brought that up, I so when I was listening back to, because I think you also auditioned for another project that I'm gonna have the cast announcement that's gonna be coming out pretty soon for Furious 5,
Okay.
and it just came down to different people for, I don't remember if it was Luke or somebody, but when it came to William,
Uh-huh.
it was between you and one other actor. So here's what did it for me. I
Okay.
listening to the performances back to back to back and kind of driving myself insane while doing so because I'm just like,
As
ooh,
is to be expected as a director.
yeah, exactly. And it's just like, oh, I think he would be best for this character, but now I'm stuck between him and
Right.
actor B. So eventually, I just really liked how you were able to bring just that, because this is a guy that is like into, the mysteries and just trying
Sure,
to get
sure.
solved, getting to the bottom of stuff. And
Sure.
it kind of was reflected the best out of all the ones that I did. Not that everybody did amazing, but like
Sure.
everybody
Well,
did their own takes and
everyone
yeah.
has their own story to tell, and I guess maybe for me, because my inspiration for like mysteries was when I used to live in Michigan, I there was some expansive woods in the area behind my house, and I would often walk back there and see how far I could walk. Sometimes the first time maybe I went in for like 5-10 minutes and then went back home, and then the next time I walked a little bit farther, and ooh, I discovered a tree that acted as a bridge across a river, and I'm like, oh, now I've accessed a whole new area. Um, And so that's kind of where my inspiration came from. But I like to imagine that the other actor, whoever it was, maybe had their own, like maybe they actually visited a haunted house and some of something like that. So maybe their inspiration was one that came from, oh, I'm exploring the unknown and I'm scared, but that's what drives me to go forward. Versus me being, oh, I'm exploring things that are interesting to me, and I just want to learn about the world around me. It doesn't mean anyone's story is more or less correct, but really just that we are telling our own truth based on our own life experiences, and it just so happened that it was more in tune with what you were hoping to get out of William.
Yeah, and what I think something that you also touched upon as well is that at the end of the day, because you know that William is kind of like he's into this stuff, but then I think you also added in just like the little excited, eager little kid aspect to it, where it's
Yeah,
like, yeah, he's like he knows that this is kind of like a really crazy situation,
sure,
and
sure.
he's just not afraid to just see what's going on and why this keeps happening to
Well,
people. And yeah,
any person with ADHD, or who may even consider themselves to be part of the spectrum has probably felt this. Where, I hate to say that in society there has tended to be a stigma against those who are neurodivergent. But that doesn't suddenly stop us from being passionate about things that we like. I have, just like anyone else who has gone through that experience, I've had moments where it felt like I was being picked on or bullied or made fun of because of my passions. But you can see I'm still very much passionate about those things. So just because we have those momentary experiences of, oh, I'm the odd one out, people look at me funny or they treat me differently, that is not going to make me go, I'm not willing to be excited about the things that excite me. And it's important that we get to see William have those moments where his strengths come out, because also a very common trope that happens in storytelling is the character who has a neurodivergence or a hyperfixation or a strength that is mocked or seen as, a charming quirk by other members, it eventually becomes an important strength that aids the story or leads to a great discovery later in the plot. So,
yeah, and something fun that I really enjoyed writing William and also everybody else. It's because a lot of them, when you're doing stories that are kind of yourself, you kind of put in a little bit of like some of your own personality into each and every one of them.
sure.
Because I know for William, it's definitely like the hyper, fixation, the passion for something, but also knows when something isn't right, like
Right.
this is not great, like
A
people are
strong sense of
disappearing and
justice, I would
dying.
say.
The strong sense of just exactly. So, and also other important element to William is that there's a sense of like, oh, maybe there's a little bit of backstory to him of why he's doing it. And I
Sure.
think that was something that also kind of came through. Is like, he's passionate and he's, willing to solve it, but you could tell that something is kind of troubling. Like
Mm,
there's something that's not really yeah, something might have happened to him, and that's why he's
sure.
kind of like in a, sort of like I need to see why I need to
Right,
see
right,
what's going
right.
on with this because I know some bad stuff happened to me, and I just wanted to see where, you know, why this keeps happening to so many different victims and what have you.
Hmm.
That's pretty much where I can say on the surface for William because that when you listen to or like when you watch the cast announcement trailer, it's like you get a sense of who everybody is, their personalities, and who they were before stuff just really hits the fan.
Sure.
And yeah, I just really think that this whole thing is kind of something that I growing up it encompasses everything that I love and also just diving into a new like I haven't really done a lot of horror or just mystery type of stuff, so
Uh
this is
huh.
like the first big foray into let's see because when it comes to horror I just really like the ones that is more psychological thriller like
Mm.
psychological
You're
like
not a jump scare person.
jump scare they work. I mean, I'm just like I'm just not a fan of just using it excessively or
Sure,
just doing
sure.
it just for cheap chalk, that
Yep.
stuff. I
Yep.
just wanted to I'm a storyteller, so I don't really put gimmicks in my stuff,
Okay.
if at all.
Yeah,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah, and it's just gonna be like an episodic where I was just talking to somebody even before this, where I want the audience to second guess Like,
Hmm.
say, if this person is like, oh, are they gonna be like, when you meet the characters, like at first, it's like, oh, are they just kind of like, the generic, like Adrian's the bubbly one and
Right,
Haley's kind of
right,
like the stick in the mud, but yeah, there's some depth to them,
right.
and they're gonna encounter some deaths, but
Okay,
that's all I'm gonna say. So when
okay.
you meet a
Yeah,
character for the first
don't
time,
give
it's like,
too
yeah.
much away.
I know, yeah. It's like you meet them for the first time, they're just like, oh, they're kind of on the surface. Like I've seen these characters before. Like William's kind of nervous, Marshall's kind of like the cool bro, like best friend type of dude. But there is more to them than meets the eye when
Hmm.
you watch the series throughout, and that's
Okay,
always some of the most exciting aspects. But not just with the characterizations, but also like what happens in the story. Like you might think
sure.
something might be fine, but then the curveball comes up, or it's not really bad, but there's going to be another element to it that
Okay.
makes the story much more captivating, and it's just going to be lots of twists and turns that,
Very ambitious, I can tell.
yeah, you don't really know what's going to happen until if when an episode comes out.
Oh,
So
well, don't give too much away. We gotta
yeah,
find out for ourselves.
exactly. And I want, oh, and this is something that's so fun. It's like
Okay.
when I get to work with the cast, it's like, oh, I want them to be surprised, like all of you. So
You
it's
want to
like what
have like
happens here
a
is
Mark
like,
Hamill moment of like realizing Darth Vader is the father.
hmm. Pretty much, yeah. Uh, well, not in like, oh, like the villain is actually somebody's father, but more
Right.
like,
I'm just saying
yeah.
that sort of like even the actor didn't know until it was time
The
to
actor, yeah,
perform the scene.
exactly. Because there's a lot of cases where it's like you get something for the first time and it's like, oh.
Right, right.
Okay. Yeah, so that's what I wanted this series to be. So, yeah, this is only just the beginning, guys. Stay
All
tuned for
right.
more. But yeah, that's pretty much all I can say at the moment about it. But
Okay.
yeah, it's just coming up with the stories and the designs and just a lot of the storytelling that we come up with so far. It's
Mm-hmm.
I also got to give a major shout out to my writing partner Kayla Temshev for really bringing a lot of this together. Like it's funny because whenever we do a rough, Kayla would often suggest stuff that would just let's just give them even more like heck, or just let's just make it even worse. And then I would just be like, okay, we can do
No, you got
that.
to be careful with that because otherwise you're just gonna get. It's just gonna become like a suffer cycle, you know?
Exactly. So that's why I'm just like, okay, let's do that, but I want the characters to really come out of this like stronger. Like they're not going
Right.
to be the same as when they came in, and
And
I don't want them
this
to
isn't just a
be
punching bag.
yeah, and I just didn't want it to be nonstop like, oh, games, but I want them to have moments where they just have to use
Right.
their smarts and brains, like if you're in an escape room, for instance. So, yeah, I
Right.
think that pretty much is what it kind of is, an escape room. So,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. So that's pretty much like I just really love talking about this because it's just something that I've been working on for years, and
Yeah, I'm glad
yeah,
to see that
just
you're so passionate about it. That's really important to see.
exactly. And just having a cast that's gonna bring these characters to life just really makes me so humbled. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Yeah, thanks for sharing.
Yeah, anytime. Let's see, anything else? Because I've asked about William's story, like I don't know if I've also asked you like when you received it and booked it, like what was something that I don't know, I guess kind of drew you in per se with Solomon
Drew me
in
into
general.
what would you say?
Drew you in with like the story or just yeah, just pretty much the stuff that you've probably already seen already. Like just
Just in general, I just have this innate. I think maybe it's because I'm always so busy in my own life that I like to have the chance to explore worlds besides my own, and
mhm,
especially it's what drew me to stuff like anime and video games as opportunities to do things that aren't possible in real life. You know, you said that there's this big theme of William wanting to explore these mysteries and just has this confidence that something deeper is going on. And not only do I want to find out what that is, but then I get to perform it and experience it and react to it. And it's something that may not exist in the real world. And that kind of opportunity is really enticing. So part of it is because I of the stuff that is told to me, which is he's exploring mysteries. He feels that there's something undocumented that needs more investigation. But it's also the parts that I don't know that make me go, well, the only way I'm gonna find out is to either be in it or to watch it when it comes out. So, and I'm an impatient
exactly.
person, so I'm sooner gonna try out and see if I can be a part of it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And trust me, there's gonna be a lot of fun sessions coming up, and there's gonna be so many episodes where you're just like, oh, I didn't see that coming. Yeah, trust me, it's gonna be a trip, y'all. It's a roller coaster. But
Yay.
yeah, is there anything else? I think that's about it for Solomon. So once again, you can just see episodes as they come out later this year, and also you might see a website dedicated to it. So I think I might as well just make that announcement right now. Just stay on the lookout and stay tuned for more updates on the project, if you please.
Yay.
Um, yeah. But going back to the strike, and I know this kind of like a topic that is like, ugh, but since it's kind of technically suspended, I don't know what's gonna happen
It
from this
is,
moment
yes.
forward.
I
So
believe the
yeah.
current term is that it is the SAG-AFTRA has elected to temporarily suspend the strike pending a finalized agreement. So they still need to
Yeah.
bring the agreement, the final version of the contract to us, the membership, go over it with us, and then if, everything looks good, to put it to a vote to ratify it. And that's literally having the members vote, do you approve this contract? Yes, no. Um,
Okay.
but like I said before, we are at a point where, like in every instance in the past of SAG-AFTRA being on strike, there has never been a point where we have gotten to where we currently are right now, and the membership has not accepted the contract. So I think that's why SAG suspended the strike in good faith of going, hey, you know what? We're confident that we're going to approve this contract. So we're going to preemptively give everyone permission to get to work on stuff again because we don't expect we're going to go back on strike over this.
Exactamundo. Yeah, but what was something that you'd like to see moving forward, just in voiceover and everything in general?
I feel like because I know that a big part that became a point of contention during the negotiation was the fact that there was this divide between actors who were struggling for work. Understandably, they were like, I need to go back to work. I need to put food on the table. And actors who either out of convenience or out of necessity were making that sacrifice to not immediately take the deal because they wanted better protections. They're like, no, this deal does not have the things in place that we need to safeguard the futures of our careers. And I just feel like going forward, there needs to be more education and especially more participation. To give you an idea, I'm going to do a quick Google search SAG AFTRA membership number. There are, I want to see, I want to look up number of members. Number of members. There is approximately 160,000 members of SAG-AFTRA. And if we look up the number of voiceover members, I don't know if that, how many members in a Screen Actor Guild? I wouldn't know the exact number of voice actors, but I want to say it's not a small number. Let's say a minimum of at least 10,000, and I'm probably way under guessing that. But that doesn't matter. In fact, that only makes it worse because at all of the meetings that I sat in on to discuss the contract during the strike, at most, we had about 386 people. At most, we never even crested 400 out of thousands upon thousands of members. And all of those thousands of members are going to be voting on whether to certify the final contract or not. Now, as someone who sat in on the meetings, I know that the finalized contract, while I personally am not pleased about some of the specific language that's used in it, I do recognize that it has a massive amount of additional protections that the earliest versions did not, and it has more protections than even the previous final offer did that makes it more acceptable. But I am worried that if we ended up on another strike in the future, because, AI was the big hot button topic this time around, and 5 years ago, it wasn't on anyone's mind. It was a very sudden intrusion into the industry. So then the question becomes, in 4 or 5 years from now, how much will AI have advanced? What else might be something of concern that we need to negotiate? And I'm worried that more divides will happen if actors are not educating themselves, or worse, that actors are going to impatiently push for a deal to prevent themselves from being on strike, and in the process, agree to things that are actively going to hurt their ability to continue booking work in the future. The the human condition And this is something that has been exploited and marketed and taken advantage of and observed for hundreds and hundreds of years. The human condition is always at odds over short-term gains versus long-term gains. You can see countless examples of how someone will they'll take $1,000 now and pass up, oh, if you wait a month or if you wait a year, you'll get $5,000 or $10,000. And they go, well, but I can use that $1,000 right now. There's all of these things that I need to use it on right now. So they pass up a greater long-term gain in exchange for short-term comfort, convenience, solitude, solidarity, whatever it is that matters to them. And I am worried that that is something that's going to come into play in the future where actors feel pressured to want to take something in the short term so that the short term isn't as stressful. And in exchange, they're going to make their long-term futures even more difficult to maintain. And I hope that doesn't become a problem going forward.
Honestly, right there with you. Like everything you just said, I'm right there.
Yeah, there's a lot to be said, I know.
There's, I mean, honestly, I'm not sure if this is really like the episode for that, but trust me, if I were to do one like specifically about the strike, then
Right.
I'll do my due diligence and research and have guests.
I would say in that
on
case,
that
definitely make sure you invite someone who's more knowledgeable about the
Yeah.
strike, who maybe someone who's on the board, because I was
Yeah.
active during this one, but I'm not going to pretend I've been around since the dawn of time, and I would rather someone who's way more experienced with that kind of thing speak their piece on it.
Yeah. I mean, I know people, the good folks at Nava or like Z, Crispin, those guys,
Mhm.
those probably would be great candidate. They probably would be really great guests, but the thing is, scheduling.
Right.
This is always
They
the
are
case
they are
with
probably
this.
equally as busy because of the fact that they are so involved with the
Oh my,
union.
yeah, like Zeke, I don't know if he'll listen to this at some point, but like, dude, like I gotta give you the kudos, bro. But yeah, yeah.
I know, it's a
That's a lot
very
of
heavy
work.
topic, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know, yeah, but at the end of the day, it is important to talk about, but yeah, I
mhm.
think this would be a subject for a different episode in and of
Sure,
itself.
sure.
But um I think something interesting that I wanted to ask you is what advice would you want to give to younger Sean about finding their
How young?
maybe like when you were when you started like watching the shows and then you wanted to do voice act or just right when you were first getting your
I
toes,
think
yeah,
if I
in
were
the
to
early
approach
days.
younger me like that, they'd probably be freaked out by some person claiming to be an older version of themselves. And what's also really interesting is if I were to give advice to a younger version of me that was already involved in VO, that would be very different than if I were giving advice to a younger version of me that hadn't discovered it yet. Because something funny that I often bring up is um even though I watched cartoons, even though I played video games, for some reason my brain didn't understand that I was doing the thing that these performers were doing when they voiced folks in Dexter's Lab or in Final Fantasy or stuff like that. But I almost don't know if I would want to reveal that to myself ahead of time, because having that sudden realization, having that moment of discovery is part of what let that passion ignite so furiously. It was that dawning moment of, oh my God, this is what it is. I want to be involved in this. And I'm almost worried that if I alerted myself to it at a younger age, that it would have impacted my trajectory in life, or it would have affected how much I paid attention in school, where I would have been like, oh, well, this isn't voice acting, so I don't care about it, you know? I'm worried that the ADHD would have made me hyper fixate on the thing I did care about instead of just kind of focusing on my studies and doing the best that I could while trying to find something that I could attach myself to. Um, so I would say, just to give an answer to both, if it was to the younger version of me that was already involved in VO, it would probably be to like not be so embarrassed about your own voice, because I know that very early amateur Sean was always concerned about how high pitched he sounded, and I was always trying to pitch myself down in audio programs so I would sound cooler or older or something like that. And obviously, I don't do that anymore. But it probably hindered me in a couple of ways when I was first getting involved in the craft. But if it was for like a much younger me, um, I I don't know. Like, It's hard to say. Because nowadays, like, I feel like I've gotten better at not letting the opinions of others affect me too much. I have confidence in who I am, and I have confidence for what I stand for. And I I could say that to my younger self. I could say, don't let the opinions of others affect you. Be your own person and be proud of what you enjoy. But I don't know if that, again, I don't know if that would change how I developed into the person that I am today. So there's this bittersweet gratitude of, it sucks that younger me had to go through the things that they went through. But you know what? I am so, so glad that they turned into who I am today. And while I'm still growing as a person, there's a lot about me that I'm really proud of. And I don't think I would want to change anything in the past if it could potentially affect how today turned out.
Exactly. So I think since we're kind of at the ending portion of this, plug in your socials, upcoming stuff that you want to share
Yeah,
about
well,
that you can
when
talk
is
about.
this airing, first of all? Because I don't want to like invite people to come check something out that is long since passed.
Sometime this week. I don't know
This
which
week.
specific day yet.
Okay. If it happens to be, it's not going to be before tomorrow, right?
I honestly don't know.
What I would
My
probably say,
schedule is, like I
sure.
said,
What I'd probably say is my socials, the big two are Blue Sky and Twitch, which luckily are exactly the same for the username. It's at Sonic Mega. I strongly recommend that those of you who check out my Twitch come and see my playthrough of Fuga Melodies of Steel 3, and then check out the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, I think, is NG Sonic Mega, like Newground Sonic Mega. Um, but when Twitch was doing their video or their VOD length limitation, I scrambled to upload everything to my YouTube channel, and pretty much everything from my Twitch legacy is there at this point. So I would love for you to check it out. I'd love for you to discover games that maybe you didn't know about before. But those are the big two. I'd say Blue Sky for just my day to day, and if you want to converse with me and ask me questions, and then Twitch if you want to see what games I get up to and what I enjoy playing, and especially if you want to see me in my element, absolutely destroying bosses that other people felt were supposed to be difficult.
yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun. I should probably start back checking out your streams.
I mean, I don't feel obligated to, because the same reason why I'm not able to check out other people's streams is why I imagine you might struggle to add something to your routine. We're all busy people. We are all fully entrenched in our adult lives, and it can be difficult to find something that we want to consistently add to our routine outside of the stuff we're already doing. So if you happen to come by and check it out, great. But I don't want anyone to end up having to sacrifice stuff that's important to them just to make time for me.
Like, I gotta check out his stream. Yeah,
Right.
none of
No,
that.
I don't ever want people feeling that way.
Exactly. What are your final thoughts or advice that you want to close out this interview with?
Um Keep what's important to you close, and be do self check-ins from time to time, and if you find that you are starting to ignore the things that even bring you comfort and peace and quiet, or just allow you to recharge your battery, seriously ask yourself if there's nothing that you are able or willing to give up to keep some of that for yourself. Because if you become a pure workhorse, and that work is not something that is consistently fulfilling for you and energizing and rejuvenating for you, you're gonna burn yourself out, and then the work is gonna suffer for it as well. So life is a constant, careful balance between the stuff that we need to do and for others, and the stuff that we need to do for ourselves. And you can't lose sight of the stuff that's important to you, or you're gonna lose the motivation for literally everything else.
Exactly. As for the outro, you can say, "My name is Sean Chiplock. You've heard me on da 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 da," and this is
Yeah.
the Solomon Shrine Podcast with Robert Jackson. Whenever you are ready, my good sir.
Anyway, my name is Sean Chiplock. You may have heard me as Subaru Natsuki in ReZero, Rivali and Teba in The Legend of Zelda, Reen Schwarzer in Trails of Cold Steel, D-Luke in Genshin Impact, Draken in Tokyo Revengers, and so many more. And you are listening to the Solomon Shrine Podcast.
Perfect. Yeah. And what would William say to close this out?
Um, Remember, always travel in pairs. It's good to have a safety buddy.
Amen to that. Yeah, I don't think I have any particular goodbyes, but yeah, um, I think we're kind of good. Like,
Okay.
goodbye, farewell. Yeah. Do you have any final?
Nope. Nope. I mean, I think we covered a lot of really good ground. So thank you for
Yeah.
having me, and I hope that when the project starts releasing, that folks get to see the culmination of all of your hard efforts.
Yeah. And just want to say, dig your background because I got
Thank
all
you.
my stuff.
Yes, the plush collection has
Yeah, the
entertained
plush.
many
I
a
got a
stream.
little creeper from Minecraft, and I have a Bowser Pokemon. I got all of it everywhere, but I just can't reach over and
Sure.
grab them and stuff. But yeah, it just shows that we're just not afraid to be kids, just big grown up kids at
For
heart.
sure.
So yeah, that's kind of the what I would close this out with. Congrats on the strike being suspended, whatever the pending agreement is going to be. But yeah,
Okay.
we'll just see what happens when they make an announcement or at some point in the future. But yeah, as of right now, my final piece of advice: just do it, and God loves you. And we're in a pretty weird season right now in life, but
Hmm.
hey, we like I was saying before, we figure out how to navigate through it, and we just think that I mean, look, one of my main themes for the project is the power of teamwork. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's kind of cliche, but having some group of people that are just going to be, behind you, have your back, and you've returned the favor,
Right.
it just makes such a huge difference and it makes the world go round. So that's probably what my final advice.
Okay.
That's probably what I would close out with. So yeah, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and stay tuned next time on the Solomon Shrine podcast. Remember, folks, continue always to play for your life.